Hi, welcome to the Meta Behind Relationships. I'm your host, Gaylon McDowell, and today I have an interesting subject. The title of today's episode is, Are you happy? Just that simple question. Are you happy? You know, when you're talking to people in the work that I've been doing for many years as in ministry, as a teacher, as a counselor, as a coach, sooner or later you bump across issues that people have in general with happiness. For some reason, people can have many things and still not be happy. All the things they say they want and they aren't happy. Or the relationship is not the way they want it to be, so they're not happy. Or the work or the job or the career or the business isn't the way they want it to be, so they're not happy. So today we're going to drill down on, are you happy? What it means to be happy and what it means to be happy within the context of a relationship. So as always, when I have these conversations, I bring on the creator and CEO, founder of the 5S for Love platform, Christine Burkett. Christine, how you doing?
Galen, I'm going to say, I love all your shows, right? I think this one is so badly needed. I really do. I just, what everything you said is why we need to have this conversation. Because me, I'm happy regardless.
All
Like,
right.
that's what's happening. I'm in my space. I'm not going to say I'm not human and things don't impact me, but I'm happy, period. So I think the first thing, like for me, I'm always asking these defining questions. Like, what is happiness?
All right. So there's the Webster Dictionary definition, which
Mhm.
I'm not going to use. I'm going to get down to brass tacks of how it lands with us.
Right.
Uh, Not something I created. I borrowed from Tony Robbins, who I'm sure borrowed from somebody who borrowed from somebody. Happiness is your perception of your life, whatever that area is, in relation to
Mhm.
where you think it should be. So
Hmm.
if I believe I should be here, let me get on the
Right.
screen, but I'm here,
Right.
happiness is how close are they together normally. All right.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm talking about in general. So
Right.
a person can say, well, my relationship should be here, but it's over here.
Right.
The closer it gets to here, the happier I am. Or the closer the career is to where I think it should be, the happier I am. Or the money, or the
Right.
whatever. All right. Now that's a level. I think that's the baseline level. But then I teach, because I am a metaphysical thinker and teacher,
Mhm.
happiness is also a choice that people get to choose the feeling, the emotion, and even beyond the emotion, the state of being of happiness. And what I mean by that
Right.
is this: regardless of what's happening around you, you can choose your own state. Now,
Right.
that requires a level of mastery,
It does.
but because what will end up happening is, when your life isn't where you think it should be, you have a few choices. One, you can decide to do something about it. That's the first thing. What do I need
Right.
to do to get closer to my ideal? Two, I can accept it and stop complaining. Three, which I highly recommend, even if you take action or not, but I just recommend it, is change the meaning. All right.
Yep.
So I get to decide what this means to me. This is devastating. Is it? This is horrible. Is it? Now, people can say that's putting your head in the hole like an ostrich. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying ignore breakdowns or don't take action.
Right.
What I'm saying is the attitude in which you take action matters, because as I teach people, you are a mental field that is always radiating and
Mm-hmm.
attracting. All right. So if what you are radiating, your mental dominant states of mind are
Mm-hmm.
always seeking vibrational correspondence and agreement. And
Right.
that which is in alignment with where you are mentally. And when I say mentally, I mean thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. That's what you produce and attract to your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to be happy in spite of.
I like what you just said, in spite of, and that you reference is a mental state of being. I think that sometimes people don't understand the control that they have over their environment, and it all starts right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Now, I'm
know,
not telling people to be in relationships that don't work or be in business situations that don't work. But here's the thing, there's always something. So you need
hmm,
to be able to evaluate
yep,
and pay attention to your intuition, because I believe that that's our God given wisdom to navigate life to when it's time to stay, when it's time to take action, and when it's time to go. But if you're not in tune with yourself, you won't know which step to do when it's time to do it.
that's the thing that I think overall people are missing. You have to know yourself. There's no way that you can assess a situation and evaluate where you fit within that situation unless you're really confident about who you are. And that means the good, the bad, the ugly. It's, knowing yourself doesn't, not saying that you're perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm just uniquely Christine, and I know my pros and cons, and I know what my triggers are. I know the things that I may not be. I'm not a very emotional person. So I know I have to have some sort of, I don't know, fail safe when I'm making a decision to check that emotional box. That may be me picking up the phone. And a lot of times that's you, Galen, because I'm very logical in my approach, very logical. But a lot of times when you make decisions, it's not a logical approach. It's a human element involved. So I would say, folks, I'm not Galen, but I'm going to tell you one of the things that I did. I spent a lot of time with Christine so that I knew where my issues were. I'm not going to say issues, where those things were that I wasn't 100% in, because nobody's perfect, right? Nobody is. But you have to know yourself before you start qualifying what's happiness. Because what happens is you watch social media and then equate something that happens in social media with happiness and say, well, that's what happy looks like. Because I'm not sure what happy looks like for me,
Right.
right? And so you got to define what that is. Even when if I have no money, if I lived on the street, I would still have to find a space of happy to be in. Because, folks, to me, I don't know, Galen, happiness goes with determination. I feel like happy and determination.
Well, I think it depends on the individual. So I think
Okay.
that folks need to be clear about what that means to them.
Okay.
Again, what is happiness? I think in general, people would feel as though it is a sense of joy, a positive attitude, a positive or constructive outlook on on life or yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
it's ways in which you can define it more concretely.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start dealing with life in real time, most of the time when people are not happy is because life isn't showing up the way they think it should.
And that's the imagery that you've created. May it be real or false, but it's your reality. And that's the thing. You got to know where you're at, because when I look at my life at a glance, from where I started to where I'm at now, there have been some moments that probably would have broken most people, like sent them the opposite way. But for me, I was focused on one thing, which is I had to identify what my purpose was. And within that purpose was my happy, not the things that were going on around me, because I knew that I had to have a clear path. And that's the thing. I don't think happiness is just it's just a state of mind. It's built on experiences that becomes that infrastructure, right? So what if a person is not, the question I guess you have to then start asking, are you happy with yourself? Right?
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
and then how do you create that infrastructure of your own happiness?
Well, I think you have to build it step by step. Now, there are many different approaches. I don't think there's one approach, but let's just talk about it from the standpoint of
Okay.
how I teach people, because that's what we're here to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that I believe in is building blocks. When a person doesn't have the self-esteem, the self-love, the self-image, first of all, you have to have some introspective questions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
to ask yourself, why is this showing up the way it's showing up? But I don't like to be in a space to where I'm drilling down too hard on that early. What I
Okay.
also want to do at the same time is, what can we do to build people up? Okay, whether it's prayer, meditation. I'm a big believer in affirmative prayer. Declare as what you desire as a now state of being. I am this, I
Mm-hmm.
am that, et cetera, because that is invoking, as you do it, the repetition that will change uh, the way you view yourself in life. We
Mm-hmm.
know just from, let's take the metaphysics out of it and just deal with brain science, which I know,
Okay.
some of your background in science
Yep.
is that the brain is is creates new pathways
Yep.
based upon repetition,
Mm-hmm.
and then repetition reinforces it.
Yes.
So the more you state a position, the more you do a thing, the more you say a thing, you're
Yep.
making it stronger in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
The more you don't, you actually weaken the connection. All right.
Yep.
So some people have these habits. If we just stay with brain science and not get into consciousness is beyond the brain and all that, which is what I believe. That's a different conversation for another day. If it's a whole science behind that,
It
y'all.
is.
Okay, it's a whole science around this brain create
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, or consciousness create brain. It's the whole thing. I'm a ladder. Anyway, the in the brain pathways, if you're consistently reinforcing something,
Mm-hmm.
create eventually it becomes the new habit, the new way of thinking, the new way of
Okay.
believing. And so what I seek to do is to help people shift their paradigm from an old paradigm to a new
Mm-hmm.
paradigm by giving, first of all, clearly explaining the options. Okay, when you show up in fear and frustration, anxiety and doubt, this is how you experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the consequences. In other words, what are the effects of that? When you show up in love, faith, peace, wholeness, abundance, and just a more constructive outlook on life, this is
Mm-hmm.
how it shows up. This is
Right.
how you experience that way of being. These are the consequences of it. And then you help people get to the place to where they start choosing the
Mm-hmm.
positive alternative more. Okay, because the other way is just conditioned. So they have to.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, you have to just consistently and consciously choose it over and over again. It's like driving a car. When you first learn how to drive a car, it's very mechanical. Brake,
Yep.
accelerator, changing gears, mirrors, and now you just get in and go. People want that experience with life when they haven't conditioned themselves for it.
That's a great analogy.
That's what I
Oh
do.
my God, that's a great analogy.
That's what I do, Christine.
I'm just like, that is a great analogy. You're so right. People do feel that way.
Yeah.
They feel
So
like I should just get in and this should just be happening.
yeah, because I have the education, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty, or I'm handsome, or I'm popular, or I have the education, experience, the money, whatever, and they
Right.
automatically think that a certain way of being
Right.
automatically kicks in. But it doesn't kick in until it's your subconscious way of being. If not, you have to make conscious choices consistently.
Okay, folks, we'll be right back. We're going to go dig deep in that. Are you happy with yourself? I think a lot of us are walking around with this false concept of what happiness is, and we're using social media and everybody else's lives to play out our lives because we do this comparison thing. And if we feel like we don't level up to what we see or believe happiness is, we begin to level down. So we're going to dig deep and find out how can we first be happy with ourselves before we start looking at engaging with our partner. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
My name is Christine Burkett, the inventor of the 5 F's to Love. This is a compatibility app. It's an app that gives you an opportunity to rate words that start with the letter F in chronological order of importance to you, to help you find your one true love, your soulmate, and the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So after you've taken the time to rate your F's in chronological order, you send a link to the person, I don't know, you just met, or the person you've been dating for quite some time. Or maybe it's the person you've been married to for 30 to 40 to 50 years. And then you compare your top 5 F's to find out what things you have in common and things that you may perhaps need to work on. This is taking a simplistic perspective on how to find your one true love, your soulmate, the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And thank you for downloading the 5 F's app.
Hey guys, welcome back. You already know it's Wednesday, and it's the meta behind relationships with Gaylon McDowell. Gaylon, this conversation today with everyone, we have more people working with therapists, more people speaking with people like you who are experts in relationships and just getting your life together. I consider you like a life coach, not just a relationship person. You're like a life coach person. But it's so many people seeking out experts in those fields because right now people are really lost as to who they are, what they want, and what it should look like. And to me, I'm a little bit confused because I'm more I make the plan. It's a plan involved, and I go after. But I've realized that a lot of people are not like that. And I don't know if it's about selfish choices or not being sure about who you are. So right now, understanding that, are you thinking more people are not happy with themselves or they're not sure about what happiness looks like? So therefore, they're just kind of trying to find it.
I think it's a mixture of a few things. One, people are exposed to more information.
Okay.
All right, so social media, internet, TV,
Mhm.
8 million channels. Internet is 8 billion.
Right.
Facebook's, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. You can go
That's a
on.
lot. Social media is a lot. Oh my
Social
goodness.
media by itself, the
Yeah.
news, 24/7 news
Mhm.
from multiple channels. So it's more times to not just work with yourself internally, and it's
Right.
more opportunities for something somewhere else to upset a person. Then
Mhm.
there's in the collective consciousness of humanity.
Okay.
I'm a big believer that in ancient, in not ancient, in old school metaphysics, new thought metaphysics, they use the term race consciousness, and people don't really
Mhm.
understand what that means, but it means all of humanity's past thinking. In other words, humanity as a whole has a collective consciousness that, if you're not careful, impresses upon you even when you don't realize.
Mhm.
Then there's culture, which is a part of the collective. There's tradition, there's upbringing, there's the things you were exposed to as you were raised. All of
Mhm.
these things are part of dealing with unhappiness and unhappiness, because happiness can also be viewed as a sense of confidence or satisfaction. It can be
Yes.
viewed as contentment. I'm happy, I'm content.
Right.
Happiness can be viewed as pleasure.
Mhm.
It's many ways in which you can look at the word happiness. So I think what ends up happening is happening. I just realized that was kind of happiness happening is people are are lost in the maze of judgments.
Hmm.
Okay.
I like
Judgments
that.
on themselves, judgments on others, judgment on again where they think life should be for themselves versus where it
Mhm,
is, and then life in general should be
mhm.
versus where it is, all the way up to their concept of God, all the way
Yes.
there. So when you're lost in the maze, and think about a maze, just trying to
Mhm.
figure out how to get out. What's the right step versus the wrong step?
Right.
This could be devastating. This couldn't be. What should I do versus that? And because people are not necessarily learning in school, often not
Mhm.
learning at home, and many times not even learning in their religious beliefs, how to tune in to an inner spiritual wisdom. They're not intimate
Mhm.
with themselves
With
uh,
themselves.
at a spiritual, mental, and emotional level. So when you don't know you more authentically, I'm not talking about just habits and ways, knowing yourself more
Yourself.
authentically, then it's
Mhm.
very difficult to be able to uh, deal with life without realizing that really what people are dealing with when it comes to their unhappiness is just a maze of judgment. And to be honest, I just made that up just right now.
I
It
love
just
it.
made sense to say maze of judgments
Yes.
versus some abstract metaphysical term somebody has to look up. You know, one of the things I love in the book, of Course in Miracles, it says, "I'm never upset for the reason I think." And I often say that because often we're unhappy.
Yep.
It's not for the reason we think.
Mm-mm.
We're frustrated, but it's
Mhm.
not for the reason we think. We're angry, and it's
Yes.
not for the reason we think. Now, I'm not telling people that they're never going to get angry, never going to get sad, and whatever. And I'm not basing any judgments on people's anger, frustration, or judgment.
Yep.
Uh, because that becomes its own judgment in and of itself. Well, I should have
Oh,
never got
yeah.
angry. Okay. Anger can be good when you see an injustice happening because it'll
Mhm.
motivate you to do something. Anger turns into something improper when it is destructive and uncontrolled, for instance.
Mhm.
All right. So, you know, you're supposed to have, you know, if not, you're just walking around like an android.
Exactly. Exactly. That's so, we had this conversation. Well, a couple things, folks, before we even go further. If you missed last week's replay of I Meet No One But Me, I suggest you watch that because as we transition into Are You Happy with Your Partner? You might want to watch that first and then listen to this second segment of Are You Happy with Your Partner? Okay, so that's that one. But the other thing is, so last night on Real Talk with the Ladies, we talked about evaluating people and making a decision whether or not they stay or go in your life.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I think I wanted to embark upon the ladies is that one, I said you have to know who you are before you start evaluating others, because sometimes your influences are supporting that type of relationship unknowingly sometimes.
Mhm.
And it becomes a thing. But the other thing is that I'm not impacted by what other people think or feel about me. I'm just not. And that doesn't make me arrogant. That doesn't make me, a know-it-all. I know Christine. So the thing is that your feedback to me, if you're not in my inner circle, and that's what I mean, people who are not in my inner circle, I care about what my inner circle because they know me. They're going to say things to me, maybe good, bad, or ugly. They're going to tell me what it is. But people outside of that inner circle, they're going to say things from their perspective. And it could be because you're not like them. And that makes them angry or upset. So they're going to say things. So people need to understand sometimes when you're in the space and you're asking or giving people the concept or idea that you care about what they think, that embarks upon your space of just being happy. Folks, you got to be sure about who you are for real. Because especially when you're looking at business relationships and personal relationships, what if a person constantly said negative things to you? Is that going to change how you think about yourself? Is it?
Yeah. 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 I think I agree with what you say with one caveat.
Yes.
Okay. The caveat is if certain things keep happening in your space, you're the
Hmm.
common denominator.
Evaluating yourself.
So you know,
Hmm.
feedback is feedback.
Hmm.
So if feedback consistently keeps coming to a person, whether it's in a circle or not,
Yep.
and that's why I'm saying this is my caveat.
Mhm.
Then I have to evaluate again, because I meet no one but me. Why
Yep.
is this consistently happening? And what could end up potentially happening in that situation and circumstance is, uh, especially when it comes to evaluating whether a person should be in your space or not.
Mhm.
And I'm not here to say what a person should or shouldn't do as far as that's concerned, but I do always like to at least pause and stop people to say, okay, how have I helped create the situation?
Yep.
Okay. Because nobody likes to own that part. And sometimes that creates uncomfortable conversations with people that I care about. When they
Mhm.
come to me, of course, I'm gonna be the soft landing first, show up as love first.
And
I'm
then
gonna
you
give
go
a,
in.
right. Why? Because
Yeah.
this type of teaching of universal laws and principles
Mhm.
can unintentionally come across dry and cold, because
Yes.
it's a
Mhm.
universal law. So I'm a big believer, like Jesus, lead with love. Okay. Now,
Mhm.
once we get past the lead with love and we deal with the initial need, now what do we need to do to address the situations around the breakdowns of how you help create this? Well, I didn't do anything. Okay. And then you start
Mm.
asking harder questions, including,
Mhm.
did you pay attention to your intuition? What was it saying about this person, about this
Mhm.
situation, about this
Yep.
circumstance? Were you getting some internal energy or thoughts about, hey, not this person? Were you getting any uneasy
Yep.
feelings, energy in your body? Were you not paying attention or choosing not to pay attention to the red flags or even yellow flags? Yellow flag is pause. I don't mean stop, but pause.
Pause.
Okay. And pay attention. All
Mhm.
right. Slow down. When we see the yellow light, for some people, that means go faster, but it actually means slow down,
Slow down.
because the stop is about to happen.
Exactly.
Okay. So people don't pay attention to yellow. They drive
Mhm.
through it, and then they
Mhm.
drive through the red.
Yep.
So they're not paying attention how some of the things they're doing and not doing, and sometimes the beliefs that they have and what they say and what they don't say, all are part of the matrix of creating a situation.
Hmm.
Okay.
I like what you said about the yellow and then the red, and that people understanding contextually when you're getting that feedback, especially like what you said when it's coming from different people and it's the same thing. So you do need to pay attention to that, because at that point, I mean, what do you suggest people do if they're hearing, basically you're an a-hole, right? And it's coming from 10 different people, you're an a-hole. You need to really, it's a difference between being arrogant and confident and being an a-hole. I think people need to
No, no,
understand that
no, no.
too.
That's true.
Right.
What I would say is simply this: is how you showing up getting you the results that you desire. Okay.
I love
So
that.
everything has everything that you do should have some level of purpose.
Right.
Okay. So it's not, oh, I'm just the way I am. No, no. Because we know how to code switch when it's time for certain things
Doop.
around certain circumstances. People
Yep.
who don't know how to code switch create problems.
Yes.
Okay. Police pull you over. What's the problem, officer? Where's the ID? You got a code switch. All right.
Exactly.
Okay. You show up at work, you got to know how to code switch.
Mhm.
You got a business deal on the table, money's on the table.
Mhm.
You got to know how to code switch. You don't talk
Yep.
to the potential a business partner like you would do with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your homies,
Yep.
your family, your brothers and sisters. It's a code switch. People don't know how to code switch and often end up in places where they keep you locked up. So
Exactly.
so it's important to know when you say, okay, well, what do you tell people to do? Okay, ask yourself the basic question. I'm not making this right or wrong, good or bad.
Mhm.
What I am saying is, will this get me the results? If this way of being, this position, this way of talking, this way of
Right.
showing up, will it get me the results that I desire? Are they
Mm.
getting me the result? Because here's the thing: if happiness is the goal, and that's not the goal for everybody,
It's
let's
not.
be clear, okay? If
Mhm.
happiness is the goal, and a person keeps showing up in a way that's disruptive to happiness, then they need to evaluate themselves. Like, you've heard me
Mm.
say this before. I call it the Godzilla effect. where when you watch the old Godzilla movies, Godzilla would walk down the street and everything would be fine, but Godzilla would be wagging her tail, knocking the buildings
Ripping
out
it up.
behind her.
Yeah.
Often people show up, they're very unconscious, and they're focused on what they want, and they don't realize the destruction that they've left behind.
Yep.
So part of not being really truly happy, satisfied, at peace with themselves literally creates this destructive energy that harms themselves and other people. But it's hard to see how you're harming other people when you won't even be authentic with yourself.
With yourself, which lends to my next question. If you're not happy with yourself, are you happy with your partner or potential partner?
I think it's hard to be because of projection. People have the habit of subconsciously projecting their life on the other people. When I say their life, I mean their opinions, their beliefs, their dominant ways of thinking onto other people, but they don't see it. It's sort of like Emmett Fox tells a story about in the Wild Wild West when the movie projector first came. They would have these movie projections. They project the movies onto the side of the barn. And when the bad guys would start beating up the good guys, the cowboys would pull out and start shooting the screen.
Yes.
Now, we know that no matter how hard they shoot at the screen or the barn, it's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
Because it's the projector. All right. So it's hard to be happy with your partner when the projector is projecting life a certain way to you. Okay. Now, if you're not happy with your partner, this is where communication comes into play. First of all, again, do your own prayer work, your own meditation work, your own study, your own contemplation, your own therapy, whatever you got to do to get yourself where you need to be mentally or trending that way, because there's no such thing as done. I don't like people even to think there's a such thing as done. Then how do you need to communicate with your partner to be able to address breakdowns? Because in relationships, there are legitimate breakdowns.
There are.
Okay. Now that you've addressed the breakdown, can the partner sometimes the partner say, well, I can't do that. Then you have a choice to make.
Right.
Okay. Is being in this relationship worth it if I need this? At what level do I need this to feel as though I am satisfied and feeling as though my needs are met in a relationship? In other words, don't be a martyr in your own relationship.
Don't be a martyr.
Okay. At the same time, a person can say, yes, I didn't see that. Now do I see it? What boundaries need to be put in place? What agreements need to be put in place to make sure that those needs are being met? There's some integrity in the relationship. So there are a lot of factors, but it always goes back to knowing what you want, knowing what matters to you, because all of those things are different for different people. And if you don't know what you need in a relationship based upon your own individual perceptions and beliefs, it is very difficult to for a person to meet needs that are not communicated, unstated, and unknown.
Uncommunicated, unstated, and unknown. Well, folks, we're going to quick commercial break. And the question is, if you can't be happy with the partner or potential partner, can you be happy without one? We're going to find out when we get back. Because some of y'all, you might want to answer the latter part. Can you be happy without them? We'll be right back.
it? What's up with it? Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, real lies all the time. Stand on it, if we said it, we don't walk around it. Loose lips, ain't shifts, red cup, blue strips, new phone, who this? No, we don't allow it. Really on go, I don't know what's an off day. Now we on road, came from smoking in the hallway. Now we got shows, boys feeling like Broadway. Always look both ways, even on a crossway. Driving down Cross Bay, out town Barclays. Really on big things, came up a small way. Championship rings, baby, that's a ball game. Oh, she want a little bag, baby, that's small change. Yeah, that money talk. If we ain't cool, then cut me off. No breaking news, don't run your mouth. Thought it was the plug, now he running off. Thought it was a plug, now he running off. What you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, real lies all the time. Stand on.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is a pre-recorded show. So I do want to let you guys know, although it's pre-recorded, it's live today. And we're going on spring break. So if you didn't watch last night, and if you didn't watch Monday night, the entire cast is going on spring break for the month of April. We're going to be enjoying a little spring break time, but we'll be back live the first week in May. So Gaylon, I'm going to tell you, this is the conversation. I wish I could just put you in a genie in a bottle and just take me with me sometimes, because this was the conversation about whether or not you can even be happy in a relationship or without that relationship, without that partner is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So are you happy with your partner, without your partner? Because people are now, the rate of divorce is ridiculous. It's just unreal. But also people are getting married at the same time. So it's like, and I want to say the rate of divorce and the rate of marriage is not equal, but I am happy. People are getting married, but I'm also concerned people are getting divorced. But Gaylon, this is the kicker. It's folks in their late 40s, late 50s, late 60s doing it. Mm-hmm. It's not, that's the part that I'm kind of like, so Gaylon, here you go. That's why we had to do a quick commercial break, because we need all this time, honey. All of it. I don't even know what to say, because a lot of people are choosing to be without their partner.
Well, I think that, first of all, can you be happy without a partner? Yes. So let's get that out of the way. Do you want a partner is a different question. All right. Can you be happy without a partner? Yes, because happiness is a choice. Happiness is a state of being.
It is.
Happiness is a way of looking at life. So yes, you can be happy, and you have to know you. And what I mean by that is this. Some people say they want things that they really don't want. Cohabitating with another human being is more than a notion. And sometimes people say they want a particular thing, but what does that look like for you? Especially as people age and they become more settled in life, and they have their home a certain way, their life, their time management a certain kind of way. This is what I do. This is how I show up. This is
Gaylon, let's keep it real. Your dishes is on the shelf you want it on. Yeah. Your toothbrush is to the right and not to the left. And then he come along, or Portuguese come along, and now everything on the wrong shelf. The spoons are somewhere else, and now you're mad about it.
Morning people, evening people. You like this show versus that show.
That show.
It can be you like them, but different religious beliefs, particular different political beliefs. It's all there's so many factors in play. So the question comes into play is, do you want a relationship, and what does that look like for you in the context of compromise without martyrdom?
Right.
So people say they want a thing, but they don't want to do anything to attain it.
Right.
And often they don't want to get better for the situation. In other words, especially around a lot of dating situations, people just have to love me the way I am. Look, God loves you the way you are. I don't have to do anything. Okay. Now I know that might sound mean-spirited from a minister, but understand what I mean by it.
Exactly.
everybody has a choice about what they like and what they don't like.
Mhm.
And like I said before about code switching, this is more than just code switch. This is do I have a personality?
Mhm.
Do I have habits?
Right.
Do I have a life structure
Mhm.
that is conducive, that is in alignment with what I say I desire?
Mhm.
This is why, sometimes, relationship experts are sometimes considered mean spirited. You can go from the range of the Kevin Samuels to other people,
Exactly.
everything in between. Because at times people will show up with their delusion.
Yes.
And then they want, like Matt talks about on Mondays when, he's, on not Mondays, on Thursdays,
Yep.
because he's a dating coach. He's a matchmaker.
Mhm.
And he talks about sometimes the delusional conversations he has with people,
Yeah.
like in real time. Okay.
Real time.
And here's the thing. I never forget one of my spiritual mothers. This isn't about relationships, but it relates about being with a partner or not being with a partner. One of my spiritual mothers was a minister in Miami. Her name was Mary Tompkin, Reverend Dr. Mary Tompkin. She was a genius of a woman. Passed away in 2013. Genius of a woman. And one day we were at walking in the bookstore at the church in Chicago, and we're just talking about biblical scholarship, who she liked, who she didn't like, because her study was biblical study. So she was a scholar, but she chose to be a preacher. And to make a long story short, she was telling me about scholarship and how it works. And this is one of the things she said. If you're a scholar, you have to be willing to put your ideas into the public sphere of scholars for critique.
For critique.
All right. She's like, no matter what the field is, when you start dealing at the doctor level of things,
Right.
whether it's medical doctor or biblical doctor or educational doctor,
Right.
this is your hypothesis. This is your
Right.
belief. Let me put it in the field.
Right.
And you can't get upset when the field that
Right.
you're in potentially critiques your work.
Right.
All right. Now, you've been through that with your science background, I'm sure.
Mhm.
That's a part of the process.
It is.
Now, when people get into the dating game, there is a high possibility, high probability that critique will come along with that process.
100%.
Okay. So, what you think is an asset might not be an asset for somebody that you're looking at, okay, etc. You might love your 4 children, but that man or woman might not want to date somebody with 4 children.
4 kids.
Okay. So, your over reliance on friends and family and other things, and no time and energy for your significant other might work in certain situations, might not work with a partner.
Yep.
Right. A person who might be a workaholic works well in the business field, but if you're always coming home exceptionally late, and when you're home, you're not home because your mind is on work, that doesn't necessarily work with being with a partner. So, are you happy without a partner? The question is, do you have a lifestyle that has room for a partner? Because you don't have to have a partner.
Right.
Okay. But if you do, then you need to
make those
modifications.
Yeah.
For what it is you say you want. And if not, it's okay to not have a partner and just enjoy your life. Because there's variable levels of what it means to have a partner. A partner means a person you choose to be in a relationship with. But there are people who get needs met without a partner. There's some people who don't care about needs being met.
Right.
There's so many levels and variables of it. All I say is simply this: you can be happy without a partner, because first of all, you got to be happy with yourself before you do anything else, before you engage with a partner. But my question would be, one, are you willing to go into the game and recognize everybody has these critiques about hair and height and weight and this, that, and other, without recognizing that you like what you like too.
And that's okay. And the big picture in that, because I'm out here in the dating game, is that just because I'm attracted to a certain type doesn't mean that one particular person, because he is my type, is attracted to me. And
Yeah,
I think people need to understand it, but it goes back to that whole thing of, like you said, you get in a car, you just want to drive it and you just assume. No. And even when you talk about the laws of attraction, you did a whole, conversation on the laws of attraction. Folks, laws of attraction, the contributing factor to this whole thing is they have to be attracted to you. Like if they're not attracted to you, the law is the law, but you're not going to attract them. So, folks, this dating game does put you under a lot of scrutiny. People, and you got to have tough skin out here. You really do. I take everything as a network opportunity before I even think about it as a relationship. I kind of get a feel for who you are. I don't automatically going out in my mind. I'm thinking this guy's hot like fire. He addresses the visual need, but then that intellectual thing, if it's not met, then you're dismissed, right? And it doesn't make it a bad thing. That's just what's important to me. You got to be more than eye candy. But at the same time, he may be looking at me going, she a little heavier than what I like. I like him a little slimmer, So then I meet the initial visual, but when he zooms in, he might be like, she a little chunky. I can't really do with the chunky. So I'm out. So folks, you got to understand where you're at, but don't base that conversation on your happiness.
yeah.
You
So
can't.
I think there's a difference, Christine, between your own self-confidence
Mm-hmm.
and your own self-image versus
Who are you?
recognizing that when you walk into any environment that allows the market to set the value, and please
I
understand
like that.
we're talking about relationships, and I
Yes.
don't want people thinking that people set your authentic
Right.
spiritual value. That's not what
They
I mean.
don't. That's not what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying. When I say the marketplace sets the value, all right, then that means that you think you're all that in a bag of grits. As a guy, you walk in the room, and then Michael B. Jordan walks in the room, and all these women know who Michael B. Jordan is, and they know what he looks like when the shirt comes off.
Woo, honey.
There's a different conversation. But it's the same thing when a Beyonce walks in the room.
Exactly.
Okay. The Halle Berrys of the world, etc. Now, but that's not everybody's standard of beauty. That's not everybody's standard of what they want. People like different things.
They
My
do.
point is that when you step into the marketplace game of dating, all right, then I read somewhere, and it was blew my mind that the majority of men that are on, this was a man study, not a women's study, so I don't have the women's statistics.
Okay.
On Tinder, the dating app, where people would swipe left, swipe right. I don't know what, I don't know if it's swipe left or whatever. They swipe that, for instance, if there's 100 guys, most of the women are choosing less than 10% of the guys that they see on the show.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So that means that the marketplace, so let's just say it's 100 guys, and 10 guys are the ones that the women really want.
Yes.
That means that's the ratio of other guys, like say for instance, and it's 100 women, but the guys like 90% of the women.
Yes.
See how that can be an imbalance, because all of the women are trying to get a few guys.
The 10%, that 90 is trying to zoom in on that 10.
That 90 is trying to get the 10. Okay, which leaves a lot of these guys
out
in positions where they want a partner, where they want to date, where they want to, but they're not viewed as desirable because
in the marketplace.
They're not tall enough. They're not attractive enough. They're not, they look like a nerd or whatever. I don't know but here's the thing. What ends up happening is, if there's a competition for those 10 guys out of 100,
right,
then more than likely, many of those guys are going to have more than one.
Exactly. And that's how you become number 20 out of 20. You number 20 out of 20,
Yeah.
ladies. So what Galen is basically saying, folks, in the dating game, the market is set, and that's 100%. And a lot of times it's not a fair market, but it is the market, right? So you have to reassess whether you're gonna stick in with that 10 or you're gonna look at that 90 that's sitting, or that 90% that's sitting over there, ain't nobody paying attention to. It may be a little diamond in the rough over there. You don't know. You need to focus in on that 90. And ladies, the 90% focusing on that 10%, honey, listen, if it's about happiness and you're looking for that partner, just get ready. You're number 20 because he got 20 choices.
And
So it may take him a minute.
Yeah. And this is why, and also understand what you bring to the market.
Yeah.
Because what you think you bring to the market might not be at the level of value. Sometimes men and women can overvalue, for instance, their sexual prowess. But from a man's perspective, that don't mean as much as women think it does.
I just want to say,
I like in Harlem Nights, Sunshine.
Yes. But you know what? Men have put that mindset into certain women. Not me. I've always seen myself as a smart person, but and I always say it's like, it's
overvalued. It's overvalued because the thing about it is, I can get him, I can do whatever, etc. Nah, it'll work on some guys, but the majority no. And if a guy got any level of swagger, it's not pretty much going to work at all.
It's not. And going back to what you said about Kevin Samuels, a lot of women had issues with him. And I'll be honest, I didn't have issues with Kevin Samuels. I think what he said a lot of times was very direct. And it was some truth in it. I think sometimes he made some unfair, how can I say? Yeah, he did. But overall, a lot of what he said has some truth to it. So to me, I always tell people, you listen to what people say and you take away the things that kind of impact you, or I always say people on my road of success, like that's my journey. And so I listened to Kevin Samuels because when I looked at that, he was talking to women like me who are highly educated, financially we're in a good position, but we still have no spouse, right? No potential mates. But I want to be clear, I got a slew of potential mates. It's me. I'm the handicap in this conversation. I just want to be clear. I mean, don't worry with me. I'm the handicap in this situation because for me, I know what I want, and I'm hoping to meet that person. And I need somebody, honestly, who's bigger than me. I need somebody who's bigger than me because when you're an intellectually above average person and how you think, the average person doesn't stimulate me. You may stimulate me for a short period of time, but I need a guy who's intellectually sound. That's what does it for me. So you got to know your thing. It's not just a body. Now, if it comes in a nice Brooks Brothers, I'm going to take it. If I get a Brooks Brothers and the intellect, oh, hey, I might go to a cooking class, Gaylon. You might look up and I might be Chef Christine because I would be motivated. Huh?
If that happens, it'll remind me one time of one of my uncles, who's a notorious playboy. He got engaged, and I literally said this, and I regret it, but I actually said it because I said it in front of the lady. He's like, nephew, let me show you. I'm engaged. And he showed me I thought it was his girlfriend or one of many, and he showed me the ring on her hand, and I said, oh, Lord, Jesus is real. So if you go to a cooking class, I'm going to say, oh, Lord, Jesus is real.
Oh, my
Now, of course, he was married to the lady, but right. I was embarrassed that I said that in front of her because it was so shocking to me that he was even considering getting married, because he's one of the people that doesn't believe he has to have a partner to be happy. He does his life.
And when you do have those moments, and folks, trust me, if I do end up telling Gaylon I'm in cooking school, he's gonna be like, "Oh, Jesus is real," because that's one of my things I'm not really great at, but I think for the right person, you're willing to do whatever it is, especially when it's minor. That's not a major thing, that's a minor. But folks, when you look at your happiness, and I'm getting ready to go because Gaylon got to close out his show, and Gaylon, when he closes, I'm over here taking notes. The only thing I can say to you is I walk in joy every day. I walk in joy because I know who I am. I know my faith. I practice my faith every day. And it's not always pretty. I'm not going to say, it's always pretty, but I will tell you this. At the end of the day, I'm happy. At the end of the day, at the middle of the day, at the beginning of the day, I'm happy. A lot of stuff happens, but I manage it accordingly. And I allow minimal impact to me. And I always tell people there's always 3 levels to a conversation, and there's 3 levels to Christine. Nobody gets to the inner core. You got to learn how to protect your inner core of who you are, because that's your being, that's your light. Everything else outside of that, yeah, my outer core gets bruised up. I got some dents, right? And I have to rub those dents out. That's called being human. That's my life. And the thing is, you got to work with it. But the best thing you can do is tune in every Wednesday. Listen to him. This guy is the guru of metaphysics and relationships. Listen to this guy, because believe it or not, I watch him. When I'm not sure about things, I rewatch it. And you're probably saying, but you're on them. It doesn't make a difference. Regardless whether I'm on them or not, I watch them, because it's important that you kind of focus on who you are. Folks, we got to reduce the number of people getting divorced. We got to start looking at who we are and how we can fix it. Now, if it's not fixable, don't fix it. And we got to start looking at, before you jump in these relationships, are you ready? Don't be his uncle, okay? Don't be his uncle. And trust and believe, every relationship doesn't look the same. One of the things, Gaylon, before we go, women always remark on me and how I say I'm okay if I'm with someone who travels all the time. And they go, well, how can you do that? Don't you want to go home every day to that person? I'm a different kind of person. And for all you know, there's another person out there that's uniquely like me, who's a man who's like, I'm looking for a woman who's okay, because maybe he was married to somebody and she couldn't handle it. I'm okay with not seeing my husband every day. I'm okay with him being on the road. It doesn't mean that I don't love him and I don't want to be in that type of relationship. That's the type of relationship that works for me. And that's okay.
Yeah. I know someone who they actually, the husband and wife, live on different coasts, not just different cities, work situations. He travels a lot. His job, in all over the United States and overseas. So it didn't, so he has a central hub where he lives. They connect, they do whatever, and it works for them. God be the glory. For me, that wouldn't work.
Right.
So you got to know but
you do.
But if people have that, I like to fly solo energy. Some people really don't want a partner as much as they want. What's the word I want to use? It's sort of like Comcast. They just want on demand.
Say it again. They just want on demand.
Okay, so when I need the feeling of connection, when I need emotional support, when I need the bedroom action or whatever, on demand. But they don't want the whole thing that goes along with being with a person and adjusting their life around them and creating something new from 2 different situations in lives. So it does make a difference.
It does make a difference. Well, guys, this is where I leave, so Gaylon can give us the magic. Gaylon, thank you so much for this amazing show, and I really appreciate you helping us walk through the major conversation. Folks, what we will do is I will kind of grab Gaylon and get him to give me some input on relationship and decisions and whether or not it's love or fear. That's a bigger conversation. So Gaylon, I just want to let you know, I just want to have a whole podcast on that, if that's okay with you.
Fine.
Okay, I love that. So folks, next Wednesday, we're going to talk about relationships and the decisions based on love or fear, because to me, that's a big conversation a lot of times, and I don't want us to skip over it. So next week, make sure you tune in, because number one, I'm going to be watching that like a couple times. I need to make sure I'm going in the right path. All right, Gaylon, as always, Thank you so much for being a part of the 5S to Love Podcast Network. You guys have a great week.
All right. So as we wrap up this conversation around happiness, the first thing that I wanted to just say is you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy because you showed up. One of the things that I believe is something that we often say in the ministry organization that I work in and ordained in, the Universal Foundation for Better Living. And we say we believe that it's God's will that every individual on the face of this earth should live a healthy, happy, and prosperous life. And the reason why we say that is simply this. We believe that there's a divine intention that seeks to express through individuals, the creator through the created, as what we would call the attributes of good. And one of those attributes is happiness. Okay, that sense of satisfaction, completeness, fulfillment. So if you're working in life and you're like, okay, I don't never feel a sense of joy, fulfillment, and satisfaction, you need to take a step back and start asking yourself some of these harder questions. And why you aren't showing up in the context of relationships, especially, as happy. All right. Now, some things are breakdowns that need to become breakthroughs. Some things need to be addressed that haven't been addressed. Some things need to be left alone. And sometimes some people need to be left alone because it's interfering with your sense of well-being. All right. And you don't have to be a martyr like, okay, because this person's my family, or I grew up with this person, or, whatever, you decide that your happiness is not a priority. Don't die on the hill of making your needs less important than someone else's. Focus on you. Now, in the context of spiritual partnership, I have a couple of things. Gary Zukav wrote a book called Spiritual Partnership, which I really like. I'm a big Gary Zukav fan. Because I just, spiritually, I just think he's an authentic person. I've been in his space before. He doesn't know me. I've been in this space before at a conference, and energetically, I felt an alignment. So that really worked for me. Secondly, I think it's important to watch a video. It's a video that I really like. And the name of the video, let me make sure I have this right. I read it right. It's Reverend Derek B. Wells, Sunday service. What's love got to do with it? Radical Self-Love. It's a long title. Radical Self-Love is from 2/12/2023. It was just last month. Reverend Derek, go to YouTube, Reverend Derek B. Wells, Sunday service, What's Love Got to Do with It? Radical Self-Love, February 12th, 2023. Because until there's a certain level of radical self-love, it's hard to have radical love for others. So remember, there's something radically right about you. You got to learn it, discover it, uncover it, release it, and learn to love yourself so you're encountering life from that perspective of wholeness versus from a perspective of being fragmented because you've allowed life to pick at you so much that you no longer feel whole. If you want to be successful in life, you got to find your sense of wholeness. So with that, God bless you all. I appreciate your support. If you have questions, put them in the comment sections or reach out to Christine. She'll make sure that she gets in contact with me. Find me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook under The Truth Transforms with Reverend Gaylon McDowell. So there's ways to find me if you have questions. I would love to hear from you. God bless.